Hi, everybody. My name's Am, and welcome to Am's Untitled Podcast. This podcast is basically all about my love for books, TV shows, and basically any sort of advice that I can give and offer to help people. I would just like to throw it out there that I'm not a professional. The advice that I would give you would be based on basically, if you were my friend and you came to me with this scenario, basically the kind of advice that I would offer for you. Yeah, I'm a big bookworm and I mostly read fantasy and dystopian books. I'm not really a huge romance lover, although I am open to book recommendations. So if anybody's got any great books that they think that I will love, please either DM me on Instagram, which is at Untitled Podcast, or email me at untitled podcast@gmail.com. Very open to suggestions, any sorts of questions, content recommendations. I'll be really, really grateful for. Anyway, coming to books. So, kind of an overview of what I'll be doing is, especially for the next few episodes, I'm going to be rereading the Percy Jackson and the Olympians book series. So, all five, well, actually, all six of the books, because I've got all six. I recently read them. It's been over a month, and I just kind of had this idea that I wanted to reread them and then maybe do an episode on each book, what I loved about the books, what because obviously there's a TV show now, maybe what I would like to see in the TV show, my favorite characters, just favorite scenes. I'm also a huge Perciveth shipper, so I'll probably be talking about some of my favorite moments and what I love about their relationship and that sort of thing. So yeah, so in the books so far, the Percy Jackson books are what I will be starting with, but I am also planning on doing other book series or maybe just individual books. Maybe I'll read a book that I think is really good and I think it's worth sharing. So maybe I'll do that as well. So yeah, for this podcast, because it's an introduction into what this podcast is, I am just going to be talking about sort of my favorite authors, what I like about their writing, the sort of books that I would recommend. Um, and none of them, well, some of them have a romantic angle. So I guess maybe there is an element of romance in there, but I don't have any pure romance books. So yeah, if anybody's got any recommendations for ones that are not going to make me cringe, please let me know. It would be greatly appreciated. I'm also going to be talking about some of my favorite TV shows, movies, that sort of thing. And it won't just be TV shows that I've seen in the past, it will be maybe new ones, any new movies that I go to see. Um, Also, like whether I would recommend a movie, what I liked about the movie, what maybe I didn't like about the movie, and also give it a rating out of 5 stars as to what I would rate the movie as. And basically just letting you guys know if it's something that I would recommend, or maybe if I didn't like it as much, maybe just what bothered me about the movie, or I would just like to know other people's perspective on things because I know that I have a very different perspective to people. So I'm just kind of wanting to see whether other people think the same or maybe why they think slightly differently. So yeah, it's all about me learning as well as I'm doing this. Um, I would also like to give some advice. So hopefully, when I start to get a few more listeners, I do have a page on Instagram. I also have a Gmail account. They're both at Am's Untitled Podcast. So any questions, please feel free to DM me on Instagram, email me, whatever you feel. Whatever you feel. It can be completely anonymous. I'm not going to judge. I am just going to read them and maybe just give my advice on them. Um, I would also like to point out that I am not a professional, so please do seek professional advice if you feel that it is necessary. I'm just advising you as if you were my friend, if you came to me with this particular issue or this particular question, what I would say, the sort of advice that I would give you, the sort of direction I would point you into. So, yeah, just going to throw that out there. If I haven't experienced it, I will try to do my best to answer it. But if it's something that I've experienced, I will kind of give my perspective on it and then I'll maybe leave it open for people to maybe chat away one day on my Instagram story and stuff about what they think is the right way to go about a situation like that. So, I am just going to move on to a little bit more about myself because I feel like I've talked about in depth of what well, not really in depth, but you know what I mean. I've given you a sort of overview of what this podcast is, but I haven't really talked much about myself. So, I'm a first year uni student. So, yeah, um, uni is a very difficult life, which is why I'm still thinking about when I'm going to upload these things, when I'm going to record them, because I will only upload something if I'm 100% happy with it. It will not go up unless it meets a certain standard. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I am a uni student. I do get very busy, but I will put my utmost effort into making sure there's at least one weekly. There might not be a designated day or time, it will just go up in that week until I find some sort of uploading schedule, you could say. Yeah, I'm also an older sibling to a younger sister. I don't have any brothers. So any questions about brothers? I have cousin brothers and we're quite close, but I don't think that it's the same thing. So any questions about brothers, I'm probably not going to be able to answer. But as an older sibling, I can advise you. I can sort of point you into the right direction. But like I said, not an expert. I think I'm a decent older sibling, but I wouldn't say I'm the best. So, it's all about what we interpret, I guess. And if you needed some advice, somebody to talk to, somebody to get something off your chest, I'm more than willing to sit here and listen. I'm also a huge Disney lover. Now, I know probably for somebody in uni, that is quite embarrassing to admit that you're still somewhat like a baby, although I'm not ashamed of it. I say it quite proudly that I still love Disney. Like, they make some of the best movies I have ever seen, and I just forever stand by Disney. And my dream is to go to Disneyland. I will get there one day. I haven't got there just yet, but I will do, and I would love to just heal my inner child by going there, I guess. So yeah, I am a huge Disney lover. I won't deny it. I love it. I still watch them. I've got an excuse because I have a younger sibling that I can watch it with her, although it's probably me most of the time enjoying it more than she does. Anyway, also a little bit about myself. I am a huge Bollywood lover. I am a huge 90s R&B, early 2000s music lover. My music taste is very nostalgic. I wouldn't say I'm very this generation. But yeah, that's sort of kind of where my music taste lies, which is probably why my parents call me an old soul because I listen to the music that they used to listen to when they were younger, I guess. So yeah, that's more in the music side of things. I also love jewelry, I love fashion, but it's not really something that I can show you on a podcast, but I just thought I'd throw that out there in case anybody has any sort of questions about my fashion or the jewelry that I like to wear, brands that I recommend, that sort of thing. So yeah. Now, I'm also not a very trendy person, which you'll probably learn as you listen to my podcast. I'm quite uncool, but I think that's okay. Like, I've accepted it and I'm totally cool with it. So, yeah. I also, in terms of clothes, I wouldn't really know how to describe my fashion. I guess it's very comfortable and it's very like what suits my body type. Like, I'm not into pressure of showing skin and things like that's not really my sort of thing. I'm quite somebody that likes to be quite covered up and comfortable, and I encourage other people to be like that. At the end of the day, everybody has their own body, it's their own choice what they want to wear, but that's sort of what I like to wear. And also, the reason why I decided to put the whole Q&A segment into my podcast is because I'm a professional rambler, which you'll be able to see as you hear this podcast. Like, I will just go on to the point where it gets ridiculous. So, just wanted to throw that out there that if you ever get sick of me rambling, please DM me on Instagram and just be like, okay, yeah, episodes are a little bit too long, and I will try and cut them down. Um, I am like I know that maybe some people be wondering like whether I'm open to a collaboration. If I find somebody who I think is as passionate about this sort of stuff as I am, I would be open to a collaboration with them, although I would need to get to know them very, very well before I'm willing to share this sort of space with them. So if anybody's interested again, DM me, email me, and I'd love to get to know anybody who's listening in. Um, Also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but my Insta is at Am's Untitled Podcast, and my Gmail is at Am's Untitled Podcast at gmail.com. So those are the best ways to contact me. You do have to give me a few days because I'm not very good at responding. So yeah, just wanted to throw those out there. I'm like I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, I'm a bit of an unapologetic bookworm. So I thought that I could spend a little bit of this podcast talking about some of my favorite book series, um, sort of why I like them, and then I'm going to move on to my favorite authors. So obviously Percy Jackson and the Olympians is up there with my favorite book series because they are just so good. Like I enjoyed them just as much as of like reading them as an adult as I did when I was a child. Like Rick is so clever when he created that. And I just love the series. I love the adventure aspect of it. I love that it gets mature, like it matures with the audience, which I love that. I think it's great. And I recently reread it and I read it all in 10 days. Like it took me 2 days per book. I loved it that much. Like I was obsessed. Like I couldn't put it down. So yeah, it's a book series I would highly recommend if you're a huge fantasy lover. Each character is so well made and like Rick's vision is just insane. So yeah, it's I just love the series so much. I literally get speechless when I think about it. I'm just like, yeah, if there was like somebody who wanted to get into fantasy, start with Percy Jackson. It is great. Another, obviously, no surprise book series that's going to come up to so many people is Harry Potter. I love that book series. I've read all 7 books. I loved them. J.K. Rowling's writing style is so good again, and I think it kind of gave me my love for fantasy. So I'm forever grateful, not only just for the books, but also for the movies. I do love the movies as well. The books have a lot more detail in them, so if anybody's loved the movies and is just thinking, I don't know whether I should or shouldn't read the books, I think the books are great. Like there's so many more details and so many better characters in the books that obviously don't get to be explored as much in the movies because it's 7 movies. They only have 2 hours to fill them. So yeah, I highly recommend reading the books if you're a Harry Potter fan. Another book series that I love is Shadow and Bone. Now it's a new series that I discovered maybe 2 years ago. When yeah, I watched the show actually on Netflix and I ordered the books and I just loved them. Like I loved Lee's style. Like she'd created this world that was so believable, and I love that. Like if I can, because I'm somebody with such huge imagination, like I didn't even have to imagine too hard. Like she gave me all the details and she made these really well grafted characters, and yeah, I loved those books as well. And also another one of Lee's writing is Six of Crows and Cookie Kingdom. Them two are my favorite. I love Six of Crows because it was a heist and I love adventure and that sort of thing. And the way she creates characters is insane. And I love that her entire writing for Shadow and Bone started from, oh, what if darkness was a place? And it's such a simple idea that she's converted into this incredible universe. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of her writing style as well. Um, Another one is The Hunger Games. Again, I love Suzanne Collins, and I haven't read the original trilogy in a really long time. But I recently watched the film, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then I purchased a book because I was like, wow, how did I not know this book existed? Like, I loved it that much. And I read it in a week, I believe. Yeah, because I had to kind of divide it over time, period of time, because I was really busy at that point, but I really didn't want to put the book down. And Suzanne is one author that I really genuinely like because she just funny when I was reading her books, I'm not gonna lie, because I was just like, there is so much of what she's written that reflects the real life. And it really made me sit there and think. And I love books like that where I can put it down and just sit and think about everything I've just read and be like, whoa, she is a genius. Like, she is a genius. Like, symbolisms of like the Mockingjay and the snakes and Lucy Gray as a character. One of my favorite characters ever, Coriolanus Snow. Like, it was so nice to learn about what made him the president that he became. And I just, yeah, I really loved the book, and I cried when Sir Janus died. Sorry, spoilers if anybody hasn't read it, because I was like, he was like the moral compass in the story, and then like the minute he was out of Corio's life, like Corio just spiraled, and it was like, whoa, like I cannot believe that somebody can be that evil and that horrific. And yeah, it was just, I'm so happy that Suzanne made that book because it really does explain why President Snow is the way that he is. And yeah, I really enjoyed that book again. And I love that there was a musical element to it. And I recently learned that Suzanne was actually a country music DJ, which I think is insane. Like she wrote those lyrics and those songs in there are absolutely incredible in the book. I love the Hanging Tree one because it was like nostalgia from reading like the first set of books. Like you understand where the song comes from and the words are so good. Yeah, I loved that. But my favorite song, if I'm being completely picky in the book, has got to be Pure as the Driven Snow because it's such a amazing moment in the book and it's so equally as amazing in the movie. If anybody hasn't seen the movie, I'd highly recommend it. The movie is amazing, but the way she's created that moment in the book, it's such a turning point in the story, and I really enjoyed that. I love things that have like a musical element to it because I think that music is such a good way to express what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Yeah. So a huge, huge fan of Suzanne for creating that book. I really hope because there's like that only covers like Victoria from when he turns from a teenager into an adult. So I would really like her to create another book where he becomes like the game maker and then head game maker and then eventually becoming the president. Like I'd love to see more of that, but I don't know if she would ever be willing to write a book like that. But I'd love to read that. So yeah, and another like dystopian sort of series that I read a long time ago was Chaos Walking. I think it's by Patrick Ness, I believe, and that was also a really good set of books. Because it really touches on this idea that what if, what if there was no women and things like that. I think that's so funny, and the fact that you can hear everybody's inner thoughts and stuff. And yeah, I thought that was a great. I don't really remember much of the series, but I just remember it being a really good set of books, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I must have like read it within a week or so. What you'll notice about me is like if I love something, like I'm either obsessed with it and like I can't think of anything else but it, or I'm just like, no, didn't like that, like I'm not interested in that. So yeah, there's either one of those. So yeah, that's another great series if anybody's looking for a dystopian book. If they're not as much into the Hunger Games or they want to work up to the Hunger Games, I think Chaos Walking is a good place to start. Which then moves on very, very nicely to my favourite authors. Which probably aren't going to be a surprise based on the books that I've just talked about. I think it's going to be quite obvious who my favourite authors are. Obviously Rick Riordan, amazing. He is so good. So good. And the reason why I love Rick so much is because he created Persebath. Now, Persebath is the best and the greatest love story of all time. Like, honestly, and I was reading this book, like, I have never ever seen two characters fall in love like that. And it really did shock me. He was very good at building it up. And like, when it got to the fourth book, spoiler alert if you haven't read it, when she kissed him, I was a bit like, whoa. I was like, I actually had like, because I was reading it in the train, I actually had to stop reading it and just like calm myself down and stop myself from screaming in the train because I was so excited. So yeah, huge fan of Rick. And another reason why I love Rick's writing so much is because he is you can tell his writing is wholesome because I know that well, I recently read that he created this book for his son who was struggling with ADHD at the time. So he wanted to create a hero for him that he could look up to, which is where he got the idea of Percy Jackson from. And I know that Rick was really into Greek mythology as well. So yeah, I know that the books that he has written are written out of pure love for his son, and I think that's what touches my heart the most is when I read those books. I think it was basically just a dad trying to help his son feel find his place in the world, basically. And I think that's probably why I love Rick as an author so much because every piece of writing that he's done up until this moment, I'm still waiting for the seventh book, which is The Wrath of the Triple Goddess, and I'm really excited to read that. So yeah, I love his writing style. He's very good at creating empathetic, relatable characters. Um, yeah, and I obviously love the fantasy element of it, and I'm a big, big fan of Greek mythology as well. So maybe that's what drew me to this universe in the first place. I don't know, but yeah, Rick is definitely up there with my favorite writers. Another person who is a big favorite is Suzanne Collins, and obviously I love Suzanne, but one of the main reasons I love her is because she is very good at asking the questions and not giving you an answer. And sometimes that can be quite frustrating because you really, really just want to know. Like, if anybody hasn't read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, spoiler, at the end, Lucy Gray disappears and nobody knows what's happened to her. And I literally sat there like at the end of the book, so I was like, "Oh my God, what happened to her? Like, is she still alive? Was she killed? You know?" But I truly believe that she's still out there. Like Lucy Gray, I reckon she got away from Coriolanus and just escaped. Like I had that hope that she escaped, even though she like, had that hope that she escaped. And yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things, and there's so many quotes in the book and in the movie as well, where she's like, the whole world is an arena. And I really feel that. I really do feel like it is survival of the fittest sometimes. And even though people aren't, let's say, competing in an arena to kill each other for people's entertainment, there are things going on in the world that really do reflect that. And I think that's what touched my heart the most. Like when I was reading it, it's very, you can tell it's come from a very real place. And yeah, she's so clever. Like I said, she asks questions and she doesn't necessarily give you the answers, which I understand can be frustrating for people, but I like that. I like being left on the edge because then my mind can wander and then my imagination goes into work and I start thinking about the things that could have happened or that might have happened. So yeah, I really enjoy her work for that reason. Another person I really love is Leigh Bardugo, which is probably not a surprise considering I've mentioned Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows / Crooked Kingdom. Um, the reason why I love that book series is because she, the way she created this world, the details that she puts in the book. She gives you enough to create like a vivid image, but then she also gives you the space to use your own imagination, which is what I appreciate so much. I think that is what a good writer is. Like they give you like the leeway, they kind of show you what they think this world should look like, but then also they give you the freedom to make the world your own, which is what I liked. And that is why I appreciate her so much as an author as well. Yeah, so even people that struggle, like who don't really necessarily have an open imagination, I think it really does help because she gives you the details where she's like, she'll describe this and she'll describe that, and then you can just think it in your mind and just be like, oh yeah, I know what that looks like. So yeah, really big fan of Leigh Bardugo. Yeah, I think she's also a great writer. If anybody wants to get into fantasy, Rick Riordan and Leigh Bardugo, two people's books who I recommend without hesitation. I think they're both great. Which sort of slightly going on to the other side of what I said my podcast would be about. So it's more on my favorite TV shows. Now I've only selected one, two, three, four. Four because I am aware that this podcast could be really, really long and I don't want that. And like I said, I have a tendency to ramble. So I'd rather just make it short and concise and get to the point so I'm not boring anybody. So, one of my favorite TV shows is Stranger Things. Now, it is an insanely good show. Like, honestly, I remember I watched it after season two had come out, and I was a little bit hesitant. I'm not gonna lie, I was really poorly for 2 weeks, and I was basically in bed for 2 weeks, and I had nothing better to do. And I was like, right, I'm gonna start this Netflix show. It is so good. Like, honestly, the 80s references I love. All the characters are great and it's a sci-fi show, but I still feel like it could be somewhat believable at the same time. I don't know, maybe it's because I have the weirdest imagination you could possibly imagine. Maybe that's why I think it could be believable. But yeah, it's just a great show. It's got a good plot. It gets to the point. It doesn't dilly-dally, which I love. There's a few 80s jokes in there, so people of all ages can enjoy it. Like my aunts, I got them into watching it, and they loved it because they loved all the references and the costumes and things like that. So yeah, the show is great. Highly recommend. 5 out of 5 stars. If anybody hasn't seen it, highly recommend watching it. It is so good. Coming on to sort of the characters in the show, I have two people that always stand out to me, and it is probably not what anybody expects me to say. So, my first favorite, which I think is a lot of people's favorites, is Dustin. Dustin is just the cutest thing I have ever seen. Like, he is a little bean and I love him. His character is funny. His singing in season three, I believe, was it season four, one or the other? Season three is insane. Him and Susie, that moment is just one of my favorite moments. Like, I think it is such an iconic moment in TV history that I just don't think it will ever be forgotten. So that moment where he sings is insane. But also he has some of the best one-liners, and yeah, I love him as a character. I just thought of another character that could have fit into this, so I'm going to integrate that after this one. So the second character that I thought of when I was thinking about choosing my favorites was Steve. Now, Steve, if anybody's seen season one, and I think, well, in season two, he sort of reforms himself. So Steve was one of those characters that I absolutely hated in the beginning. I just thought he was cocky. He was, excuse my French, an asshole. I was just like, no, I don't like him. But then the more I started seeing of him and the more involved he became in the storyline, I actually started to really like him. And he's become such a lovable character in the sense because he's had such an incredible arc. From what he started off as in the show to what he's become now is just one of the most insane things I've ever seen. And I'm really grateful to the Duffer Brothers for giving him an arc like that because it was so good. Yeah. And another one of my favorite characters, somebody who just cracks me up on the screen. Every time she's on the screen, she literally kills me, is Erica. Um, she just she just makes me laugh. Like when she swears, her comedic timing, like everything just makes me laugh. So yeah, she's another character I really like in the show. So Steve, Dustin, and Erica, three of my favorite characters in Stranger Things. It's a great TV show. Highly recommend watching it if you haven't seen it. Right, moving on to another show, which I'm really sad that Netflix has shelved it after the writer's strike. Like, I was really, really upset to learn about this, is Shadow and Bone. I really liked that show because I liked that Lee had mashed two worlds together where she'd put the Crows and the Grishaverse characters, like Alina, Mal, Darkling, they all got to meet, and which is why I think I enjoyed the show so much. And like there were crossovers that you could only imagine would have happened in the books that happened on the show. And it was two seasons, and there were two really, really good seasons, really, really good seasons. And I'm really upset that Netflix has shelved it. Like I would have watched it, I would have carried on watching it because I'm such a huge fan. The entire cast is great in that, but the people that sort of stand out to me are obviously Ben Barnes as the Darkling. I mean, Ben Barnes is an incredible actor. I've seen a lot of his work, and he is so good. But like as the Darkling, there is something you can almost not hate him because he's Ben Barnes, but then the Darkling is such a horrible character. So yeah, it can be quite difficult. To you have to keep reminding yourself that he's the bad guy, he's the bad guy, he's the bad guy. But yeah, I loved it, and I actually was a huge Darkling shipper. Like I really wanted. It was a toxic fit, but I really wanted like Alina and the Darkling to be together. I just thought it was so good. Anyway, um, another like sort of characters that I really like are all the crows. I love the crows. I think they're great. They were greatly casted. Everybody fits into their role really nicely. The chemistry between all of them is insane. But the relationship I really loved the most out of them was Kaz and Inej because again, it was a slow burn thing. It's very well written in the books. There's no physical touching there is towards the end, but there's no kiss or anything. There's nothing like that in there. It is just pure like longing and want for something that you can't have. Now, I'm a very unromantic person, but when I read that, I was a bit like, wow, that is what you call a great on on book on book. Like that was a great on screen relationship. Like think Freddie Carter and Amita Suman absolutely killed it. Like they were so good. Like I really wanted them to be together, but now we'll never know because it's been shelved. Unless it gets picked up by another company in years to come. I don't know, but yeah. Their relationship was another thing I loved absolutely about the show. I also loved Wylan because he was just so adorable. Like honestly, I just oh, he was like this little thing that was thrown into this big like almost like I don't know what you'd call it. Like, what would you call it? Like, it's like a already like established group of people, and he was just thrown into there. And his entire backstory is so sad. Like, if you've read the books, like honestly, my heart just goes out to him, and he's just the sweetest character in the out of the Crows. So yeah, love that show as well. it was the Kaz again coming back to Kaz and Inej's relationship. Like it was complicated as hell, but I loved it. Like I loved every part of that. Okay, so moving on to a show that is very, very popular. That is, do you know what? I used to really, really want to watch it, but I was never old enough to watch it. It's Game of Thrones. I bloody love Game of Thrones because it is honestly, like it deserved the hype that it had because it is such a good show. I am just going to put a little disclaimer out there that you cannot watch it unless you are over the age of 18 because it's very violent. There's a lot of gore and there's a lot of racy scenes in there. And trust me, it catches you off guard at times. So I'm warning you, just watch it only if you are over the age of 18. But it is a good show and I highly recommend watching it. And also, like a little tip that I've just put in there is watch it by yourself. Do not watch it with anybody because it can become very, very embarrassing. I watched it because my dad said that it was a great show and he knew that I was waiting until I turned 18 so I could watch it. But yeah, it's a really good show. Um, just again, the whole controversy surrounding season 8 of Game of Thrones, I was very aware of. Like, my dad said to me, "You're probably not gonna like the ending," and you guys were right. I didn't like the ending at all. I understood why they ended it the way that they did, although I didn't agree with it. So yeah, just putting that out there. It was great up until season 7, and then everything just took a really big nosedive, and I was really disappointed, I have to say. But I did watch it till the end. I did contemplate not watching the last season, but I just thought that wasn't very fair, and I wanted to know who ended up on the Iron Throne. So I had to watch it whether I wanted to or not. Was disappointed that Bran ended up on the throne, not gonna lie, really hurt by that. I understood why they put him on the throne, but then I just didn't agree with it. Anyway, um, Jon Snow, obviously my favorite character. He is just amazing. His entire journey from what he starts as to what he becomes in the end, fabulous. Love him. And on a side note, he is very good looking. That was just another part of enjoying the show. Just thought I'd point that out there. Me and my aunts have the biggest crush on him you could possibly imagine. He is an incredible guy, but he's also an incredible character. Another character that I think is so underrated is Samwell Tarly. Like I loved him from the minute I met him in season 1, episode 5, 3. I've got 3 and 5 in my head. I don't know why. Might have been 4. I don't know. Anyway, he's in quite the early episodes. But yeah, I loved him. He was like just this big teddy bear that you just wanted to protect and keep safe. And yeah, I just loved him as a character. And he had just the biggest heart out of all the Game of Thrones characters that I had ever seen. So yeah, love Samwell Tarly. Yeah. I think out of everybody, I think he got a really good end, actually, if you think about it. So yeah. Not that he died at the end. Oh, sorry. I've just spoiled it if anybody hasn't seen it. But his entire character arc had a good end, which I enjoyed. And I also just wanted to say that I was very upset that Jon Snow didn't end up on the Iron Throne. Like, he is the one person I genuinely wanted to see on the Iron Throne, and he didn't end up on the Iron Throne. So I was very, very disappointed. Um, like I said, I didn't like Bran being on the Iron Throne. Sorry if anybody hasn't watched it. I've spoiled that again. I should really put a spoiler disclaimer at the end of this because obviously I can't help myself. Um, Yeah, and another thing, like I had the biggest heart attack watching the Red Wedding. I had to watch that episode, like because the Red Wedding happens in the last 10 minutes, I believe, of the episode. I had to rewatch that 3 times because it was the first time I'd ever seen in a TV show they kill off all the main characters. I was shocked. Honestly, I kept saying to my dad, like, really like to see like Ned Stark or Rob Stark on the Iron Throne. And he just kept looking at me. And I was thinking, why is he looking at me like that? Oh my gosh. Like when they killed Ned Stark, oh my God, I burst into tears. I was like, what the hell? Because how could you do that? He was such a good character. Yeah, and maybe that's why the TV show was so popular. They killed off the people that the audience loved the most. So yeah, I was really shocked by Rob Stark's Red Wedding as well. That was insane. Yeah. And I also felt the need to point this out. I don't know why I keep embarrassing myself like this. I binged all 8 seasons in 2 weeks because I was kind of on leave and I had nothing better to do. So I binged it all in 2 weeks. So yeah, it was a good 2 weeks. I really enjoyed it. Because like my parents were like at work, my sister was at school. So that kind of opened like a window of opportunity where I think I was doing like a season in a day until it got to the weekend where I couldn't watch it as much because my family were in the house. But I was doing like a season in a day. Like I was obsessed. It was so good. Don't regret those 2 weeks at all. So yeah, I watched that. Was it last year? Last year, I believe, August time. Yeah, last year August time. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. Now, moving on to a slightly newer TV show that I recently watched, which, as you know, because I'm a big fan of the books, is not going to be a shock to anyone, is the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. My God, what a amazing adaptation of the books. I watched the movies and I was really disappointed. Like, they were a good set of movies if they weren't based off the Percy Jackson books. Actually, even then, I don't know. But like, yeah, I remember being Logan Lerman was amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, he was a good Percy, but I just didn't enjoy the movies because I was so upset that I felt like they neglected bits of the book that were really important. So I was really upset about that. Anyway, this is not about the movies, this is about the TV show. Yeah, I loved it. And I had to wait until all the episodes were streaming because I couldn't sit there, watch 2 episodes, and then have to wait a week for each episode. So I purposely waited until they were all streaming. And I sat and watched it. I binged it in one night. I started at like 2:30 in the afternoon and I must have been sat downstairs till like 11, 11:30, but I don't regret it. Like I loved watching it in bulk. I just got so engrossed in the story. I just wanted to know what was happening. And yeah, even though I'd read the books, like it felt like it was a surprise to me, any of the stuff that was in there. But I just wanted to keep watching. I just literally couldn't put it down for a second. It was great. Um, I loved who they casted for Percy. Walker Scobell was amazing. His performance as Percy, he like captured that energy so well. There were so many moments in the show that made me cry with laughter. There were moments in the show that actually made me cry. I'm not gonna call myself out on that. I'll save that for the next episode where I talk about the first book and I'm planning to talk about the series in a bit more detail as well. So yeah, I love the trio. Arian Tamadri, Leah Survey Jeffries and Walker Scoville, their chemistry is just insane. They really, really brought this like celestial trio to life, and I loved every second of it. So yeah, big fans of them now. And they were like it's the first time I've ever watched anything in my life where the cast was younger than me, so it made me feel incredibly old as well. So yeah, I just thought I would throw that in there as well. Yeah, just I loved the show. Each character was insane. I don't know why, like I found there were certain people that they put in like Jessica Parker Kennedy, Adam Copeland. Like I was watching the finale episode and my dad happened to walk in and he said, "Oh my God, it's Edge." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "He's in the Disney Plus show." He goes, "How did he get there?" I was like, "I don't know, but he's playing Ares, God of War, and he was so good as Ares. Like he was terrifying." And I thought he was terrifying. And yeah, there were so many Best moments in there that just melted my heart. And I'm going to talk a way more about that. Like maybe as I'm reading the books, I think I'm planning on doing a sort of comparison between the Best moments that they've added in the show and what was in the original book. So yeah, I'm thinking about that. I will write everything that I'm gonna write that I'm gonna say down before I do it, so like I don't miss anything important. But yeah, that is next week's episode, so I'm not gonna go too much into that. But yeah, it's a great show. It's not just for kids. I'm sick and tired of people saying that it is not just for kids. I enjoyed it just as much as a child would as an adult. So yeah, it's a highly highly well made show, and Disney have done a great job with it. So yeah, love that. I don't have a favorite episode yet because I love them all too much. But one of my favorite scenes in the entire show is the Tunnel of Love because I just remember reading it in the books and then what they've done to it now is amazing. So yeah, definitely one of my favorite scenes. Moving on to movies. So I don't really have any movie that I absolutely adore and can't get through life without watching, but I only have them in Disney movies, which I think says a lot, doesn't it? So yeah, I am willing to take any recommendations. If anybody is listening to any of the things I'm saying, and it's like, oh, you should really, really watch this movie. You'll really like it. DM me, email me. Really excited to hear your recommendations. Anyway, so my top 5 favorite Disney movies. I'm going to give you a reason behind each of them as well. So number one up there is Lion King. It is one of the best family movies ever made. Like, it makes me cry every single time. Like, I know for a fact that Mufasa's gonna die, and it still makes me cry. And it's such a wholesome movie. Like, and it's a movie that is timeless. Like, I don't think it ever gets old. All the characters are great, and the songs are really, really catchy. So yeah, I love that movie, Beauty and the Beast, because Belle reminded me so much of myself. I'm a townie as well. I'm a bookworm, and sometimes in a town you can feel a little bit out of place, and it's not necessarily how other people are making you feel. Sometimes you just feel that internally. So I really regret related to her struggle in that, and also her love for her dad. I have that same amount of love for my dad. So yeah, that really resonated with me. And one scene that always stands out to me, which is like why my romantic expectations are like in the sky, you could say, is that the fact that the beast learned that Belle loved to read, and he gifted her an entire library. Library? Library? How would you say it? I don't know. I felt like I just went a bit American for a second. A library. Library. Oh my God. I was like, I need a guy like that. I need a guy that's going to gift me a library. Anyway, it's just a joke. If anybody's listening to that, that was completely a joke. But yeah, that's another reason why I love that film. Yeah, she still is one of my favorite Disney princesses ever. Because she reminded me so much of me. It was insane. But then Tangled is another one up there. Like more than Frozen, like I love Tangled so much because I loved Rapunzel and Eugene's relationship. I love that they started from strangers to sort of acquaintances to friends to this loving relationship, which is so nice. I had such a nice chemistry, and that lantern scene is iconic. And I actually have a story to share with you guys. I've actually done floating lanterns before they were banned. For my birthday, my dad made me write on the lanterns my wishes and whatever I wanted and all my family's names. And they bought these lanterns and I got to light it and put it up in the sky. So yeah, I was obsessed with Tangled, as you can see. And I loved Pascal. Pascal was like the best friend everybody wanted. Like he was just great. And also, another film that I think is so underrated is Hercules. Like I said, I loved Greek mythology when I was in school. Like, it was one of my favorite things to learn about. And Hercules is such an underrated Disney movie. Like, the songs in it are so good. The story is amazing. And Hades, it might just be my favorite part of the whole movie. Like, he was just so entertaining. Like, even though he was like the villain, like, normally they take the route of making like the Disney film villain really, really scary. But Hades was just like, relatable. Like he was just funny and like the sarcastic stuff that he came out with, and yeah, him and Meg's relationship was so funny. Yeah, so I loved Hercules as well. It's definitely up there with one of my favorites. And then the live action Aladdin. Holy crap. What a great way to recreate an iconic story. Like Naomi Scott as Princess Jasmine. First of all, she is gorgeous. Like honestly, I was watching her in theatre like, wow, she's beautiful. But like I love that they gave Jasmine like a purpose. Like she wanted to be the leader. She wanted to prove to her dad that she could rule. Like she didn't want to marry because she was forced to get married. She wanted to marry somebody because she wanted to marry them. She wanted to be with them, spend time with them. And like honestly, like the song Speechless, like it just blew me away. I think it's because it reminded me of things like that happened in my life. And like there's just times where people do feel like they don't have a voice, and that song, considering it was a Disney song as well, was so good. Like Alan Menken, who composed the song, I'm not sure who wrote the lyrics, but yeah, they were just those songs were really good. So yeah, that's definitely up there in my top five. So it's not an actual original Disney movie, but it is a live action and it's a Disney film technically, so I just put that in there. And then I'm just thought that since I can't like say what any of my favorite movies are apart from the Disney ones, I thought that I would talk about the last movie that I saw, which was Damsel, Millie Bobby Brown's new movie, which is streaming on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix original movie. And no spoilers, I'm gonna promise not to spoil it, but I guess many of the plot details, like I kind of saw things coming before they actually happened, which a lot of the time happens with me anyway. Like I think too far ahead, and yeah, I end up spoiling it for myself. So not necessarily the movie's fault, but more my fault for thinking too much about things. Millie Bobby Brown was phenomenal. Her performance was really, really good, and she ate that red hair. Like she was looking amazing through the whole film. Like even when she's covered in dirt, like she looks great. The red hair really does suit her. So yeah, loved that. Um, it wasn't something that I hadn't seen before because I watch a lot of fantasy, so it's definitely something I hadn't seen before. I thought the story and the plot was really good, but there was places where things could have been slightly different and been improved. But I still enjoyed it. And overall, like if I think about like giving it a rating out of 5 stars, I'd probably say about three, 3.5. Like it was a good film. Like you can watch it, but it isn't something that I would go back and watch again. I just thought it was a good film. So yeah, and there was some really good characters in there as well. The lady who plays Millie Bobby Brown's stepmother in the film, she was so good. I'm so sorry I don't know her name, but she was amazing. Yeah. So if you haven't seen Damsel and you're looking for something to watch, here's a good movie. Like it was really nice. Like I enjoyed watching it. It's just not something that I would watch again. So yeah, that's my in honest review. But yeah, that was the last movie I've really seen. Okay, so let's move on a little bit to something else, which is talking about music and Bollywood. So I might have like mentioned this a little bit. My music taste is very 90s R&B, early 2000s music. My faves are not newer music as much. Like I don't really listen to newer music. In terms of Bollywood, Arjit and Shreya Ghoshal are two of my favorite all-time singers. I love the 90s singers, Kumar Sanu, Udit Narayan, and Alka Yagnik. I love their music. I think they're great. But Arjit and Shreya are my two favorites. Yeah, they sing some great songs, not only together but separately as well. And I am actually going to see Arjit this year, so I'm very, very excited for that. And yeah, definitely would recommend listening to his music if you're new to Bollywood. He is great. Um, then let's talk a little bit about Bollywood. So again, I don't have any favorite Bollywood movies because I love Bollywood in general. One movie that I saw recently is Rocky and Rani, Ki Prem Kahani, which is on Amazon Prime. I went to cinema to watch it because I love Ranveer Singh. Oh my God, that movie was great. Like it was a Karan Johar love story. It was great. It had he touched on some really important issues in the movie as well, which I thought was good. Like I always love that he always has a hidden message in his movies, which I love. And if we're talking about like favorite actors and actresses in Bollywood, I think my favorite actor has got to be either Ranveer Singh or Siddharth Malhotra. And then my favorite actress is Deepika or Alia Bhatt. I think that they are both stunning, they're beautiful, they have great performances. I've seen a lot of Alia and Deepika's works. Maybe that's why they both make it up there in my favorite actors. I also had the biggest crush on Siddharth Malhotra you could possibly imagine. I still have a crush on him. It's been so many years. I remember seeing him in Student of the Year and just being like, wow, that is what you call a gorgeous man. So yeah, and he's a phenomenal actor as well. So I've seen a lot of his work. Ranveer Singh, oh my God, I love him. He's so different to everybody else, and I think that's why he stands out so much to me. Like I love his weird fashion sense. I know some people really hate it, but I love it. I think he's great. Um, yeah, just I enjoyed that entire. Yeah, I just love that he's just unapologetically himself. That's why I love him so much. And my girl crush is definitely Deepika Padukone. She is gorgeous. Very jealous. She's so beautiful, and I love her and Ranveer Singh together. They are my favorite Bollywood show. So yeah, love them too. And I just wanted to put like a little sort of disclaimer as I end this off. That, like I was talking a little bit about giving advice, and I just wanted to put a disclaimer down that I am not a professional. I'm going to keep reiterating this. Even when I answer questions from people, I'm going to keep saying that I'm not a professional. So if you need professional advice, please do seek it. There are so many ways online and private things, and you can do things anonymously to get help. Please don't suffer in silence. It is a big, big thing. Mental health has become so important. So please prioritize your mental health. If you need help, reach out. Another thing I'm going to say is that this podcast is a space that has no hate and no hate tolerance policy. If you don't like my podcast, that's fine. Thank you for taking the time to listen to it. I appreciate that. But there's no need to spread hate or make me or anybody else who may be listening feel bad. There's already enough bad things in this world. There's already enough darkness in this world. And I don't want my podcast to be used to spread hate to anyone based on the way they look, their religion, their gender, anything. I don't want anything to do with that on my podcast. My podcast is basically just for fun and for me to express my opinions and to take in the opinions of the audience. I don't want any hate spread on this platform at all. And yeah, like I said, if you don't like my podcast, just don't listen. That's fine. Thank you for taking the time for trying to hear it once. If you don't like it, that's great. I appreciate that. And the next episodes are, like I said, I'm rereading the Percy Jackson series. So the next episode is going to be on book one, which is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. So I'm going to reread that. I'm going to pick out some key scenes and I'm going to do a comparison with the show just to see like the things that they've added, the things that they've changed, and yeah, just my personal thoughts and feelings on the book and the show. Um, so I think I'm going to do that for the rest of the series up until book five, at least. I don't know about book six yet. I don't know if enough people have read book six for me to sit and talk about it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it until book five, and if people are liking it, I'll carry on. If not, then I'll just change to a different book series. I haven't read Heroes of Olympus. I'm going to be really honest. So I've got those books upstairs. I'm waiting to read them. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I love the Riordan verse so much. I'm also going to be talking about maybe individual episodes, like scenes from individual episodes that I really liked. And Percabeth is going to be a big theme throughout my podcast. So yeah, I just thought I'd give you guys a little rundown of what to expect. Like I said, I don't have an uploading schedule just yet. I'm still just trying to figure this out. Another thing that's not bothering me is how many people are listening, how many people are streaming this podcast. I'm doing it just for the people that want to hear it. I don't have an expectation in mind. I'm doing this for my own personal. I'm going to call it development because if you'd asked me a week ago whether I would do something like this, it would probably be a no. So, yeah, I'm just going to keep going. I'm trying to improve like my confidence with this sort of thing, and I thought that a podcast is a great way to start. I don't have to look at anybody, it's just me, my thoughts and my feelings, and whoever is listening. So I just wanted to say a big thank you to anybody who's listening. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, any questions, DM me, email me. I will be putting the link to my podcast on the Instagram page, and I will probably post a picture every single time an episode goes up. And eventually, when I have an uploading schedule, I will also put that up as well. I am going to go now because I've been talking for 52 minutes. Wow. I knew I could ramble, but I didn't know I could ramble that much. But I have talked about a fair few things, so I'm not too upset about it. I'm going to read, read. I'm gonna re-listen to this podcast again. I'm going to edit it and then I will upload it to Spotify. I will let you guys know on the Instagram page as soon as it goes up. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Let me know if there's any content recommendations or any questions that you have for me. And I will probably see you guys sometime next week. Thank you.